Want to explain to everybody how the world works, how God works, good and evil, heaven, hell. Now, if you look at the very top up here, it is Creator God. What He creates is the way that the whole everything works. All celestial bodies, all terrestrial bodies, all things ever created. He's the one that makes the physics of the flesh, the morality, the spirit, all of it. And God has been doing this forever. Now, if you look right underneath God, this is a heaven beneath God. God is above all things and encompasses all things. But underneath God, there are many cities in heaven that have been happening throughout all of time. Before Adam and Eve, from Adam and Eve until Christ, all of these things, all these cities are in heaven, and it will always be this way. Underneath that heaven, there is a cutoff point where people can go into a prison in heaven awaiting judgment. They cannot enter into these cities. There's no cutoff between the cities and the Creator God. These cities are lighted by Creator God. He dwells with them. Now, how did people get into the cities, though? That is through down here. We're on earth, and whenever we are on earth, we have free will. And there are lies and truth present from the moment that we are born. There is life and death presented to us the moment that we're born. The people up in the cities of God have life. We have life and death presented the moment that we are born. And this earth is in darkness, and people have to find truth and sort through the truth and the lies. In the lowest heaven, like Satan was in the old world, it's connected to the earth. There's no cutoff between the lowest heaven and the earth. This is whatever evil entity during that age is ruling the earth. All of his spirits, all of his angels, they rule with him. He has power over them. He governs them like an army would govern their troops. Now, in every age in the earth, we search for truth and lies. And God's heart and eyes go throughout the whole earth, trying to find somebody that will do his will. Because the will of the earth is done by the evil entity that is ruling at that time. But if anybody down here on the earth finds the truth that God is speaking to them, you've got the evil speaking to them, you've got God speaking to them. Like in Abraham's day. For Abraham's day, everybody was worshiping other gods. Abraham was called because he found the door to heaven, the thing that God wanted in his day and age. Sin existed in his day and age, and he called him through circumcision, cutting off the place where sin comes from. And Abraham said, I worship one God, the Creator God, and we will keep our flesh under subjection and bring forth Jesus Christ. And then once enough people down here believed in Abraham, believed that seed, they could travail in birth to birth Jesus Christ. It gave power for Christ and the will of God to be done in the earth in their day and age. Now, as the people believed Christ, once he started preaching at the end of the age, because it's always at the end of an age that God finds someone, sends someone, and they preach at the end of the age before this person's rule, the evil entity, is destroyed and the world is changed. And since the truth of God came down to people and they believed it, this gave power through each person believing it. Once enough people believe it, it gives power to destroy this person's kingdom. The reason that Jesus Christ sat on the actual throne of God is because God is the Creator God that gives morals and sets everything. Everything is underneath him. He encompasses it all. And the reason that Jesus Christ sat down on his throne, his actual throne way up here, is because what Jesus did created something new that would affect all of creation. It changed the dynamics of the way that God would work. It ended sin. So Jesus Christ got power, sat on God's throne, so he could create a new way that would encompass all things, that God would not deal with man the same anymore. And then once Jesus finished his work by defeating back then in that age, it was Satan who was ruling down here. They didn't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and darkness and heavenly places. Once enough people down here believed the truth. Abraham found the door, the gate to heaven. Through Abraham, they believed, some of them. Until enough believed, they brought forth Christ. Whenever people believed Christ, who came to end sin, because they were living in an age where Satan brought sin into the world. Jesus Christ came to end sin, sat on God's throne. He kicked Satan down, and then he sat here on a sea of glass that's spiritual, reigning in heavenly places, mingled with fire, because of the destruction on Jerusalem and Israel. Now at the very end of this, the city was done, because enough people believed. We make up these cities. Whenever all of them that were going to believe believed, God, who had this city prepared for them, took it from him, out of heaven, to right here. And then they inherited this city. And Jesus got a city that he reigns over forever. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. New Jerusalem. He is not a king that will die or will switch hands or people will die in his kingdom, but he has an everlasting city, a heavenly city that is connected to the light of God, where God is above them, but dwells with them. There is no separation here. Now, after Jesus finished his work, this is the way life is. Good and evil will always be down here. You've got the sun, you've got the moon, you've got light and darkness. This is like our testing ground. Anybody who is up here came from down here. In some age of the earth, they overcame. This is where we start. This is our choice on what happens. They came from here, and they made it here. And whenever Jesus finished his work in defeating this evil entity, which was Satan in the old world, a new evil entity came. Something else that would control this place full of darkness, because we are not completely connected to God. We have our choice. And just like in that age, God's eyes went to and fro throughout the whole earth, seeing if any man's heart was perfect towards him. And then God places the truth in someone, like he did me. And then if we believe this truth in the world, we give power to defeat this. And today's evil entity, because this is the way that things work. In every age, the evil thing controls. It happens. Jesus finished his work, so what did they do? They corrupted everything Jesus said and said, I am Jesus Christ. Just like Satan in the beginning of their old age said, you will not surely die. And since this time, what has been ruling is Christianity over the whole world, through Rome, through England, through America, keeping all other places in their place. And they had the power, the money, the armies, the control, and nothing could rule this world down here or have dominion over it unless they believed in this. But all these people that chose this have filled up the wrath of God. It's coming. They're filling up the wrath of God. So God picks somebody at the end of an age again, 2,000 years, as usual. Noah came preaching the flood 2,000 years later. Jesus came preaching sin was going to end and the world would be changed 2,000 years later. And today we're preaching Christianity ended in 70 AD. You guys have been condemning one another for sin, rejecting all that Jesus Christ did through God. And you've gone back to Jesus Christ, back to the law, back to the prophets. Now I've found the door to heaven again in this day, just as Abraham found it in his day. While everybody was worshiping all their gods and doing everything, Abraham found the door to heaven. They had to do circumcision because sin still existed. They had to cut off the place where the evil seed came from. Jesus cleared all that up to where sin no longer matters, started a new earth. Now we have a fake Jesus ruling, saying that sin still exists. As usual, evil is the opposite of what God is and what God wants. So this whole evil world and the most powerful men in the world and your presidents swear on the Bible, and they say that sin exists and we should worship Jesus Christ. Whenever, in truth, Jesus finished his work, delivered the kingdom to God, became subject unto God, and has his own heavenly kingdom in heaven, not anything to do with us. But now we are at the end of this age, again, 2,000 years later, and this evil entity's time is running out. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism is going to fall out of the world, and they're all going to fight each other, and there's a war coming, and nothing they believe is going to come to pass, because they're liars and it already happened. And this will be us who believe the truth down here, giving power to defeat this false Jesus. And then we will go to our city in heaven. Right now, this city is being built. We've had dreams about all this stuff. This is how we know this kind of stuff, us and others in it. This city's being built. But there's a tower that's under construction in this city because God is up here in this tower. But it's under construction. There's people that made it into the city so far, but right here you can't get all the way up to God. And once we preach and everybody hears it, we make up this tower. Once this tower connects to God, God then stands up and protects and saves us out of this world. We might die, who knows, but he saves us out of this world. We go to that city, and that destroys all that this entity has been doing for the last 2,000 years. And anybody who doesn't believe the truth doesn't make it up to where they have access to God. But they go here, which is spiritual death, for them to never exist again. The message always comes at the end of the age. The message doesn't come at the beginning of the age. We have free will and we have time to choose. And at the end of the age, we build up through the people that sought truth this whole time until someone finds the door to God in our day and age. And then all people back here that were building up to it and fighting for it are going to be judged by the message that culminated and came at the end of our age. In our age, some people have not gone to the light because there's no more grave, because sin doesn't exist. So we have many ghosts running around. But their time will run out whenever this war happens that destroys this evil entity of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism that rule the world by taking us back under the law and rejecting all that God did through Christ. Many people have also gone to the light that we see whenever we die, but they were not good, and they're in prison awaiting this judgment. At the end of this age, they will be judged. The end of this age comes whenever everybody has heard this truth, leading up to the tower, creating it, building it, until God stands up, till we reach God. And then all the ghosts and all the people in prison from 70 AD until today will stand in judgment, just like this evil entity of Jesus will stand in judgment and decide whether or not spiritual death or the city in heaven, and then a new age will start again. In this next age, all I know is that Christianity, Islam, and Judaism will not be ruling the world. So the door to God today is Christianity ended in 70 AD. There is no more sin. We should not be judging each other for sin. We shouldn't be religious. But God himself is the door. And we should go directly to God. Always be honest. Don't worry about all the lies and truth that are swirling around our heads every day. Don't do any of this. Because we're not condemned for sin. We don't have to hide anything. You don't have to hide, I did this and I did that. Oh my God, I've lusted after this, or you don't have to do that. Sin is over. So you're able to tell the truth now. And this is the door that gets us into heaven. So we are going to preach this message, Christianity ended. It's not through Islam, it's not through Judaism, it's not through Hinduism, it's not through Christianity, but it is direct access to God in the Spirit. We don't have the power in the flesh that they had, because sin still existed back then, and they had power over sin, so that gave them power in the flesh. Since we are not condemned for our sin, we don't have power in the flesh, but we do have power in the Spirit, and dreams and visions in our hearts, and in telling the truth to get revelation. And once we are done preaching this, and this city reaches to its height, and all the people that are going to be saved out of this age are saved, everything will be judged. This war will happen over the Temple Mount, and we will go to a new heavenly city. And all the stuff under this thing's power, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, will end in this world. And the next age will happen.